Hey folks, welcome to my shop. I love hand tools. You could say it's almost an obsession. There's just something to be said when you create something with your hands. Something you can't get from a power tool. The finished product looks different. It feels different. There's just something about it that I can't explain. To really get the whole story, let me take you back about 40 years. I think it was grade 7 industrial arts class, and if I recall, my buddies were all making ashtrays for their moms. When I decided I was going to build a bent wood guitar case and I stood back and looked at the finished product, I think that was the day I decided that maybe I had a thing for wood. I've always tried to treat woodworking like an art form. More than just a discipline. I wanted to create heirlooms. I wanted to create things that people would love, things that mattered, pieces that people would cherish for years to come. I hope I've honed my craft to the point where I'm accomplishing that now. My shop's always been fairly humble. I guess over the years I've acquired the things that I really needed to execute my craft to the highest level possible. And like everybody else, I have a huge wish list. There's a million things that I would love to have. But then reality sets in and, well, we move forward. I suppose over the last decade or so, my biggest nemesis is that I've been working on steel leg store-bought workbenches. I have no way to hold on to anything. I have no way to secure my work. I suppose possibly my biggest gripe is that it's hard to execute at the highest level when you have to hold onto the bench with one hand and try and hold on to your work with the other. A while ago in the middle of a project, when I dropped a $500 plane on the ground, I decided right then and there, it was time. Oops, how did that get in there? There she is, my shop buddy. For years, I've dreamed of owning one of those heritage split-top Roubo workbenches. But again, another one of those times when reality sets in. With a starting price of about $5,000, I figured I'd just build myself one. My wife laughs at me, but I figured it would be fun to share this with you guys. Here's the result when you ask a furniture maker to build a simple workbench. I chose woods that I had already, saved huge on the cost. I had to add a few pieces here and there, but for the most part, had everything I needed. Even all my vices were handmade. Everything done here in the shop was simple bits and pieces that you probably have in your garage. I always say, if you can't buy it, build it. I wanted it to work to perfection. If I was going to put the time and the money and the effort in, I wanted it to be perfect. Well, about 300 hours later, and here we are. In my mind, absolute perfection. On this end, a standard pinch style woodworker device. It's convex in the center for perfect pinch every time, and the action is as smooth as butter. Look at the action on that. Yep, I'm happy with that. All the framework, of course, had to have my own style added. All the tools of the trade. You gotta give everything your personal touch. And as I said before, if you can't buy it, build it. One of the things I always wanted is a full-length leg vise. The top had to be surgical flat. I'm really fussy about this. There's nothing worse than trying to assemble a project on a tabletop that's got more hills and valleys than a California countryside. It had to be functional, but of course it had to be beautiful too. The next item that was imperative was a small detail vise. So, there we go. This is my take on a mini dead man. A simple way of putting it, it's a board that slides back and forth and supports your work lengthwise if you're working on panels and things off the side of the bench. And speaking of panels, the other end of this thing seemed like a perfect place for a panel vise. This is the only hardware I did buy. This is a Benchcraft hardware kit. I just love the looks of the antique cast. I couldn't resist, couldn't help myself. This is by far the most versatile holding method for me. Everybody's different, but I use this thing for everything. If you look closely down the tabletop and in the top of the vise, you'll see a bunch of holes drilled. The purpose behind these is you insert a pin called bench dogs in those holes, and then essentially you just pinch the piece in between the two dogs, one in the vise, one on the bench top. Nothing moves. Works like a charm. Step 1. Step 2. Step 3. Solid as a rock. And for the record, that's what most of the wood usually looks like when I start with it. Sorry for the crappy footage on this one, guys. It's hard to hold the camera and film and hold the work and turn the wheels all at the same time, but this basically works the same. Just position the dead man where you want it, put your pin in, and then drop in your workpiece, tighten up your leg vise, voila, never gonna move. And for even more flexibility, the bench has 22 of these hand-fit wooden dogs. There is one little catch to a leg vise. What you have to do, if you look behind, you'll see those little pins. As you tighten this thing up, all you do is put the pin in that bottom board. It keeps the vise from racking when you tighten it down. Your stuff will never move. The vices are all lined with high-density corks, so when you do pinch down, they won't mar even the softest, most delicate pieces. Remember I mentioned earlier knocking that plane on the ground? Well, this red strip down the center serves two purposes. It works as a backstop. I can store my tools in it so I don't knock them off the ground. And with a little simple nudge, it drops into the bench and becomes completely flush. So it's totally out of your way. I guess really when I think about it, does anyone really need 4 vices? Well, I guess when I consider the only 2 I have now are smoking and bamboo rum, I guess I can afford a couple. Anyway, if I'm gonna do this, I only want to do it once. Let's do it right. Sanded to 1500, couple of coats of oil. Is there anything more beautiful than hard burled walnut? I don't think so. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. If you're a woodworker and you think maybe this is something you'd like to add to your shop, or maybe you're just looking for that perfect gift for someone, just feel free to message me, and I guarantee we can find something incredible for you. You know where to find me. I'll be right here. Thanks again, guys.